Hello folks out there. I am Dr. David McCann from Harvard University. My thanks for being here on this day, my chance to share my love of poetry and especially the Korean Sijo. My wife and I and our family just spent several weeks up in Maine at the family's summer cottage on the shore. For a while now, I have been really noticing the tracks of the snails in the sand, the shapes of the lines they leave as they make their ways back down to the water or into the sand. And I have been finding what look like poems in their lines in the sand. Might they be Sijo? I find Sijo in so many places and in memories, news. I write Sijo in a journal, but often I will get an idea for one, then it just starts. I love the Sijo poems from today's Korean poets, and also the Sijo poems by writers outside of Korea, writers in California and other places. And it is such a strong living form. I hope you viewers may be reading and writing some too. I've been invited to read some of my own poems at the Seoul World Poetry Expo 2025, hosted by the Society of Korean Poets. The invitation was a complete surprise, but it is just wonderful to be back in Korea once again with this chance to share my own involvement about Sijo, to meet with friends, fellow poets, and people at the Expo who might be encountering Sijo for the first time. A great opportunity, and I will have the chance to read my poems from the new collection, Good Together, published just last year. My first real connection with Sijo was in 1973-74. I was back in Korea on a Fulbright to work on the research for my dissertation on Korean poetry. My graduate studies mentor at Harvard, Professor Edward Wagner, had been very encouraging about my interest in Korean poetry, but his field was E-Dynasty history, not literature. He urged me to attend courses at Seoul National and Korea University and wrote several letters of introduction for me. I arranged to sit in on the course taught by Professor Jung Byung-wook at Seoul National University on the history of Korean poetry. He was very encouraging and invited me to meet for lunch on Fridays at a little place down the street from the university. Professor Jung and I talked a lot about Sijo. He had published an amazing anthology, the Dictionary of Korean Sijo, Sijo Munaksajang, which had poems, author's notes, and text annotations. It was my principal source and guide for the study of poems by Sijo poets like Hwang Jin-hee, Jung Chul, Jung Mong-ju, and so many others from long ago. Professor Jung was very encouraging. And one day I wrote my own very first Sijo in Korean about the time in Andong when I was living in a house at the edge of town. That one started 하룻밤 Andong 시내 골목 술집 구경하고, and it goes on from there, but it was fun to remember. I have published, translated, and quite a number of books working with Woo Hyung-suk, the poet and amazing translator. A collection of my own Sijo poems, Urban Temple, was published by Bowleaf Books in 2010. And then in Korean, 도심의 절간 by Changbi Publishers in 2012. Most of my recent poems have been Sijo. The Sijo has an incredible range of possibilities in subject, voice, perspective. The classical poems from centuries ago can be very serious statements, like Jung Mong-ju's Song of a Loyal Heart, which cost him his life. They can be fun, like Jung Chul's long-form poem, the Saso Sijo, let's have another cup, 한 잔 몫에 그려, and so on. There are also amazing landscape renderings, such as Hwang Jinhee's Jade Green Stream. It has been my privilege to work on several contemporary books of Sijo. I've written prefaces for a number of the books. It continues to be such an engaging task, as contemporary Sijo poets give us sometimes very serious poems about the state of things in the world today, but then also very light-hearted looks at the world we live in. I also love the traditional form of Sijo song, the amazing melodic lines. The poem becomes a dance, and I made up my own song version of Sijo with a ukulele. The form of the poem is important as well. The first two lines get the poem moving, and then the twist and conclusion in the third line bring it to its close. As I read Sijo, I anticipate that turn. It's one of the challenges for people writing Sijo, especially as they may be starting. For me, it's also a way out, a turn away from the subject of the first two lines and into a different perspective, often an image or idea I had not been thinking about when I started writing the poem. Sijo, show me where I should go. This is a challenging question, really. I appreciate Sijo whenever and wherever I may find them. It is a different situation to judge them. Books of Sijo poems draw my attention and appreciation. I'll find myself in their subject areas. I will enjoy the tone of the poem's voice I hear, and the Sijo's form, how the three lines unfold themselves, and the twist at the start of the third, and then how the poem ends. It's like a dance, not just a text to read. Whenever I open a book of Sijo or read a manuscript that may be nearing publication, I feel glad to be meeting someone I may not have seen for a while and want to share some catching up with. Or I may be meeting yet another Sijo poet that I want to find out more about. For a Sijo writing contest, to judge the poems first of all means that I need to deliberately set aside several intervals of time for reading. The Sejong Cultural Society in Chicago, their annual contest, draws in literally hundreds of submissions every year. I have been a judge on the panel every year since it started in 2008. The first thing I do is to read all of the entries to get a sense of this year's lineup. I'll read through them all again and just make a note for those that catch my attention. Do something interesting. Present a compelling image or reflection. In effect, I open the door to my Sijo and poetry mind, and I invite all the entrants to come in, to sing their songs or dance their dance, put their picture slides up on my mental screen, or even deliver their brief Sijo lectures. The poems that do not capture my attention, or the poems that may read well, an interesting thought or image, but do not sustain the requirements of the Sijo form, those are the poems I invite to go out the back door and play in the yard while I continue to think, to read, and listen to the rest. How might we expand the universe of the Sijo? We can look at the example of the Japanese haiku, which came to occupy such a significant place in Western poetry. Partly, I'd say, because of the general fascination with things Japanese 100 years ago. But then a number of well-known Western poets, especially the beat poets like Jack Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg and others, took to the haiku. The haiku has also come to occupy an important place in middle and high school curricula in the United States. It's fun and easy to count 17 syllables. Students of all ages can grasp it quickly, including the move from the first line to the next, the intersection, and then the reverberations in the third. How could the Sijo connect? What could it connect to? How about K-pop? Could a girl group or boy band do some Sijo? How about Gangnam Style for a Sijo poem? People pay attention to what's happening with the pop groups in Korea. And if the government of Korea started to develop modern Korean Sijo poetry or help launch it by supporting writers and publishers who could develop international Sijo poetry launch readings. But I think it is important for the Korean Sijo writers and poets associations to keep doing the work they are doing with writing, translating, and publishing Sijo. Perhaps with government support, establish an international Sijo Poetry Fest where Korean writers and translators could share Korean Sijo poems with an audience from outside. I know there have been some gatherings of that sort recently. Add some good Korean food, K-pop, and possibly also an opportunity for foreign writers to try their hands at composing Sijo poems and sharing them with the audience. With its annual Sijo contest and regular teachers' workshops, online resources, and concerts, the Sejong Cultural Society of Chicago has been a strong actor in the Sijo globalization movement. We could try turning toward their lists of ways to become involved, with their workshops, Sijo writing contests, the Chicago-based pop group Elephant Rebellion, and their new book, Sijo, Korea's Poetry Form, published in 2022. They've given us a number of examples we might try. The Korean Sijo associations have presented programs that reach out to the international audience. And let's urge Korean authors to submit their Sijo in English to the literary magazines and journals around the world too. Let the show begin. That magazine was a wonderful location for translations of Korean literature, prose and poetry, both of them. And back in the days when it was being published regularly, it was a great, I think, venue for getting the word out. But for some years now, that magazine has not been published at the Korea Institute. I hope it will come back. But in place of it, there are so many poetry journals out there in the world, in the United States and other English-speaking lands. And I think if people send the poems, send the translations to those sorts of journals, they can get them published and get the international audience more aware, more appreciative of Sijo. So I would urge people to try. Look for Poetry Magazine, for example, a very famous poem publishing journal in the United States, and so many others. I think that would be a great new direction for Sijo in translation to explore. A Korean Sijo poem that I like? There are so many, but I would say my favorite is by Hwang Jin-hee. I read it in the book of Sijo poems, The Bamboo Grove, translated by Richard Rutt. Then in the Dictionary of Sijo by Professor Jung Byung-wook of Seoul National University. I read the original. And then I heard it sung on records by amazing, such lively singers. And Korean readers will, of course, all know the poem. Let me try to recite it. 정사리 벽계수야 수의감을 자랑 마라 일도 장해하면 다시 오기 어려워라. 명월이 만공산하니 수여간들 어떠라. You can see, enjoy it so much when I hear it. My translation of the poem. Jade green stream, don't be so proud of your easy passing through these blue hills. Once you have reached the wide, wide sea, to come back again will be hard. The bright moon fills these empty hills, so how about a pause and then go? And if I might, I would like to share another Sijo poem, the first one I ever wrote. It happened to emerge in the Korean language, recollecting the time that I spent in Andong during my 2 years as a Peace Corps teacher there. I would sometimes go along with the teachers at Andong Agriculture and Forestry High School on their after-school visits to the neighborhood eating and drinking places. And I was living in a home at the edge of town, and 2 big pigs lived in an enclosure right beside it. They let me know what they were thinking when I got back. 하룻밤 안동 시내 골목 술집 구경하고 머리가 삥삥 돌 때 밭둑기를 거닐다가 또야지 꿀꿀 소리야 이제 왔노 하노라. For me, one of the fun things about this Sijo is that for the word pig in the Andong area dialect, it was toyaji, 3 syllables, perfect for the start of the third line of the poem, which is just what is needed for that first part. It all came together. I do have something like plans for Sijo. I need, first of all, to stay focused on writing and looking to find the Sijo that are in fact waiting out there in the world around us, waiting to take their shapes in words. I have been working on several more of my own Sijo poems from our summers at Higgins Beach in Maine, and I will try to assemble them with others into a new collection. I need to look for readings to share Sijo with folks and poetry journals to send the poems to. In some ways, it's not easy, the Sijo path, but it is full of joyful moments, times when once again I realize the Sijo are there waiting. Thank you so much for being here and out there as we share our love of Sijo. Thank you for watching this interview, and to the 시조튜브 subscribers. I would close with a toast. 시조, 한수도 합시다.